Hey everyone, it is John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. Welcome once again, and thanks for joining me tonight. If you're new, excuse me. oh, I hate that. I'll probably sneeze later. Anyway, we are live. If you're new, welcome. Take your phone and use it to scan that QR code that just appeared on the right hand corner. That'll take you over to my Linktree, linktr.ee/some of the great stuff. You can also go to Believe, that's believemeachieve.com to get to my Linktree as well. And every single day, we have a brand new subtopic based around the master topic of the week. We are on episode 4. Welcome to our friends, colleagues, and associates that are coming back. Great to have you here. Thanks for supporting me and following for all this time. Really great to have you here. And hopefully the new people will become just like you that have been following me for so long. And our master topic is how to see the trees and not just the forest. Wow. If this isn't a loaded question, I don't know what is. So there are different things in your life that can happen in regard to you not seeing the entire forest or just seeing the tree. Now, you might say to me, John, this sounds crazy. Well, I'm being honest with you. It's not crazy. Well, then tell me something. What is it that this is about? Well, it happens when people basically get obsessed with one thing. They don't look at the entire forest or they look at just the trees. So let's take a perfect example of that. Maybe you are a photographer, and if you're taking pictures and you're just looking at the subjects, the people, that's all you're looking at, and not looking at the whole forest, which is everything else, which is the space you're in, the environment, other people that might walk by, the lighting conditions, well, then you might not have a very notable picture. And your customer will probably be like, what the heck is this? Well, we'll take it again. But if you keep looking at the trees and not the entire forest, you're going to keep missing details. You're going to miss details. Did you guys know what today is? Do you know what today is? Today is a very special day. Today is January 7th, and January 7th is, what do you think it is? Is National, I know some of you know it. January 7th is National what date? Does anybody know what January 7th is? Well, that was good. January 7th is National Bobblehead Day. Yeah, that's definitely true. But I was thinking that's January 7th. Excuse me. What is June 7th National Day? Well, it's World Food Safety Day. Um, to draw global attention to the consequences of contaminated food and water to health. Did you know, ladies and gentlemen, that even if you're not in the food industry, that if you're at home and you're cooking raw meat, or let's say you are making a salad, now it's very important that you work with your salad stuff and you work with your raw stuff in different areas or separate areas. Because if the raw lettuce gets with the raw um, chicken or meat, well, that could be a big problem and somebody could be getting sick. And so that's what I mean when we talk about that. And there's other ways things can get contaminated as well as you could have the bacteria, like I just said. You could have issues from let's say pesticides that come on from when they're grown, so they have to be washed. There could also be the fact that you're always cleaning so much with COVID that you forget the fact that you need to not only store them properly, but you need to not use these cleaners around food. That means sprays and wipes and things like that, because if that gets on your food, well, that just caused another type of contamination, right? So we have biological, we have we have chemical, and then we have hazards, such as if a plastic or something sharp got into it, that wouldn't be really good. So when you are cooking something, whether you're in the restaurant industry or you're at home, nobody wants to get sick and nobody wants to get hurt. So it's really important that you take the time to see not just the tree, but the entire forest, see what's going on. How can we mitigate any type of potential cross contamination? If you see somebody taking the lettuce out and you've got the meat out, it was like, well, wait. Why don't you go make the lettuce on the other table and I'll make this here? That way, in case the lettuce gets in this, oh, you're crazy. No, I'm not crazy. It's we can't have raw foods next to each other. That is a big problem. Now, there's something called the danger zone for food. Do you know what that is? So the danger zone is between 41 degrees Fahrenheit and 135 degrees Fahrenheit. You might know of this as what we call the temperature control for safety foods. Okay. And the danger zone is something that a lot of people probably didn't know about unless you were in the food industry. So 41 to 135. So the question is, what temperature should you cook meat before serving? Well, eggs and all ground meats must be cooked to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Poultry and fowl, fish, to 165, and fresh meats and steaks and chops, roast to 145. So again, eggs and all ground meats must be cooked to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to say that again. This is really important. Eggs and all ground meats must be cooked 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Eggs and all ground meats must be cooked 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Poultry and fowl, poultry and fish to 165. Poultry and fish to 165. And fresh meat, steaks, chops, and roast to 145. So if you got something in the 165 range, you know you're good there, right? All right. So what temperature should cooked foods be before being served? Well, bacteria grows best in warm temperatures. And lukewarm food is dangerous as it's a perfect environment for bacteria to grow and thrive. And that can be a problem. So, what temperature should raw meat before cooking it? Well, that's a very good question. So, the safety ground meats, we said minimum internal temperature is 160 degrees. Ground poultry, 165. Ham, fresh or smoked uncooked, should be 145. And you should allow them to rest for at least 3 minutes. Okay, so there's something called internal cooking temperature. Now, the best way to do this is to take your item that you're cooking and to make sure that you have the correct temperature. The probes in all the way if you're using one of these digital thermometers. Also, if you're using something like eggs, you're going to want to take, or like a mashed potatoes or something in a tray, you're going to want to take that temperature in at least 3 different locations in the pan to make sure that it's actually safe. So again, beef, pork, veal, and lamb and steaks, chops, and roasts, 145 degrees, and allow it to rest for at least 3 minutes before serving. Ground meats, 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Ground poultry, 165. Ham, fresh or smoked uncooked, 145, and allow it to rest for 3 minutes. Fully cooked ham to reheat. You can reheat cooked hams packaged in the USDA inspected plants to 140 degrees, okay? And all others to 165 degrees before serving. So really important to understand that. But again, when in doubt, just hit it to the 165 and you'll be safe. All poultry, breasts, that's whole birds, thighs, wings, ground poultry, giblets and stuffing, 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Eggs, 160. Fish and shellfish, 145. Leftovers, 165. Casseroles, 165. Are you getting how this works? All right. So really important. Another thing where people miss the, I'm going to say the tree and the entire forest is cleanliness. Now, you might say, gee, somebody went to the restroom, they washed their hands. Well, that's great. But then when you come back into the kitchen, you should actually do a double wash. You should wash them again just to make sure they're clean. And if you're doing any kind of work, okay, you need to make sure that you change your gloves every 4 hours. Okay, really important. And you should wash your hands at least 20 seconds. I know they say 45 seconds to a minute, but the standard is it has to be at least 20 seconds. So washing them more is obviously not going to hurt you at all. So I think a lot of people don't understand the fact that there are illnesses caused, and they're caused because people don't take the appropriate time to understand what's going on. Okay. And so if you're working as a server in a restaurant, or even if you're working in your own home and you're just serving your guests, it's really important to understand cooking temperatures. I mean, really important. Because if you don't understand them and you serve something to one of your guests raw, they could get very sick. And some people have gotten so sick that they've actually died, depending on if they had any other, let's say, health issues with them. So really important. And then again, when we're cooking eggs, right? I said eggs. So anybody remember what is the safe serving temperature for eggs? Who remembers what that was? So eggs are safe to eat at 145 degrees. So what should the holding temperature be for eggs? If you're going to put them like a holding place, what should they be? So generally, it's good to have it at least 3 to 4 degrees higher, so that when it gets to the warming place, it might lose a degree or two. And so a holding temperature for eggs, should be held at a temperature minimum of 135 degrees or above. So that's the minimum. Okay. And so it's really important that you take temperatures on things. But most people, if they hadn't worked in a restaurant industry, they're like, well, I guess it's okay. It looks cooked. But you don't want to make that call. I don't know if you've ever cooked fish on your stove or broiled it or put it in your oven and you didn't cook it enough. You were hungry. Maybe you came home late and you forgot that, oh, shoot. And then you had the stomach cramp, right? It's not the food was bad. It's that you didn't allow it to cook. So if the temperature is, let's say you're supposed to cook fish, right? And what did we say the temperature for fish is? Who remembers? What is the safe temperature for let's say for any kind of, let's say, shellfish? Okay, what's the safe temperature for shellfish? 45 degrees. Safe temperature for, let's say, shrimp. What do you think that is? 145, right? And so understanding this is really important. So you can use a thermometer. You can also use I'll call it a laser thermometer to check safe food temperatures. Okay. And how does that work? Well, it's really simple. You basically take the probe and you aim it at the food, and it tells you if the meat or food is at a certain temperature. Remember, though, that when you're doing this, not to aim it at the pan, not to aim it at the plate. Make sure you aim it at the meat. And when you're taking a temperature, make sure that you actually aim it into a thick part of the meat so it can go all the way down. I always recommend, whatever you're cooking, check it a few places. Okay, not just the items that are in, like a hot holding area. So if you have a steak, check it in 2 or 3 places, right? But it's important because you want to make sure that the food is thoroughly cooked. So is it safe to use a laser thermometer on food? People are asking this. So while an infrared thermometer can be incredibly useful, it's not always the right tool for checking temperatures in the kitchen. The important thing to know is that infrared thermometer only measures the surface temperature, so we can't really take it for granted. Like, for example, if we measure the surface temperature and let's say it was 230 degrees, well, pretty high chance that it's going to be above 135, 145. You can see what I'm saying there, right? So it's definitely a good idea. A lot of chefs use it when they're making desserts, so they can make sure their batter is at the right temperature. But again, when you're talking about food safety, okay, certain stores even have different colors and alarms when they go to certain levels to warn people because they know that it can become a problem. So IR thermometers make it ideal for quality control and regulatory screening. It does not, but remember, it does not come in contact with the food and does not require decontamination. So it's really easy, really quick. But when you're cooking something, it's important to use another type of device. And if you're not, if you understand that when your meat is at 245 or 230 and you've checked it already for it, and you know that that's easily going to be 145, then you're okay. But you have to understand what the benchmark is and what that barometer is. And I think a lot of people look at the tree and they don't look at the entire forest. And so today it's really important, with us celebrating, National National Food Safety Day. You probably didn't even know that was a day. Yes, but so June 7th is National Food Safety Day, and the United Nations had declared the day to draw global attention to the health consequences because it really caused the problem, and the FDA on World Safety spread the word about it to reduce the risk of food poisoning. I will tell you, I was at a park. I'll mention the name, starts with a D. You probably know the rest of it. And I was there for a conference. Food was great, it was outstanding. Then I went to this restaurant. I'm not going to mention the name, but it was one of their top restaurants there. A restaurant that you actually have to get a reservation to go to from them. So you make a reservation and then they actually send you an invitation. But the invitation is kind of something that happens after you make the reservation. So it's kind of weird because usually you don't get an invitation for after you make a reservation. But this is how this works. And then they tell you what they're serving you, ask if there's any kind of food allergies, etc. And so I remember going to this restaurant. It was, I think they got me in around 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. It was a little late. They were running behind. So I got seated at my table, and it was a 5 or 6 course meal. And I'm going to tell you something. When I left the restaurant, I got back to the hotel. Within an hour or two, I started to not feel great in my stomach. I figure, maybe it was just, the way I ate, and I didn't eat very fast. But then it started to become worse, and I couldn't sleep. And not to get into all the details, but generally, you will have a reaction to food poisoning. Do you know what it is? How fast does food poisoning take to affect you? How fast? How long do you think it is? Well, it could be different on different people. You're correct, but the answer is how long does it take? Typically, you'll have some nausea, regurgitation, right? Extraction of fluids from both ends of the body. And so, how long does it take? It usually takes about 4 to 6 hours. So I was feeling a little bit, I don't know, like just tired and not really sick. And then I was watching some TV, and then I think I went to bed, and I got to bed about 11 o'clock. So 12, 1, 2. So probably around maybe not even 12 o'clock. It was like 3 hours. And I woke up and I didn't feel great. And it took a while for this to get out of my system. And you just have to wait. I mean, it just has to pass out of your system. You have to usually drink lots of water, Pepto, etc. And it's not pleasant. Now, you might say, John, how did this happen? Well, there's a lot of ways it could have happened. They could have had cross-contamination on the lettuce to one of the raw foods before it got cooked. I remember being in a one of these large, let's call it deli-type stores. I'm not going to mention the names. And I went, and it wasn't a major name that you would know. It was something out west. And when I went there, I noticed that the person was not wearing gloves. And so I said to myself, I'm not taking this risk. I'm not eating here. 2 of my friends ate there, took their sandwich home, and they were sick within a few hours. What probably happened, the person had no gloves on. They were using the knife. The knife maybe touched back and forth, and now they cross-contaminated that. Do you know that cross-contamination can even happen when you wipe off a utensil with a towel? because you're putting your hands on one side, you're wiping it. So they always say it's best to air dry. So I hope this was useful tonight, but this is a perfect example of how seeing the forest and the trees makes sense. This could actually save your life, and it could save you a lot of aggravation and prevent you from getting sick. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I'm John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur, bringing you all kinds of great content to improve the quality of your life and everyone else in it that you care about. Go ahead, yes, and like, love, support my channel. Comment below. Has this ever happened to you? And what kind of trees and forest situation have you recently been involved with? Where has this played out in your life? Business, personal, etc. And then be sure to tag your friends, colleagues, and associates and share this out with everyone you know on social media. And then, of course, go to my YouTube channel, John Space, E Space, Morley, Space, Serial Entrepreneur, and look for that key phrase to help keep our content free. And make the choice, ladies and gentlemen, to buy my team and I a cup of coffee. We'll be so grateful with those pennies and dollars. We'll invest into new hardware, new technology, new equipment, new software, and even new facilities to give you the most jaw-dropping motivational content. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, today, June 7th, is National Food Safety Day. And I urge you that if you're preparing something and you're not wearing gloves and you're working with some kind of food, and it's not something that, you know, you just basically, it's like prepackaged food, it's raw food, definitely make sure you understand this. Google it, even take a food safety course online. They're not that much money. And these few extra tips could actually save you from getting sick and prevent your family and your friends from getting sick at one of your parties, and nobody wants that. Have yourself a great rest of your night. I'll be back tomorrow to shed more light on the trees and the forest. I hope you have a wonderful night. And yes, I will be back to see you guys tomorrow. Take care, everyone, and be well.